So, welcome everybody to our announcement of releasing our segmentation within GeoStrategies Epiphany. So, in the next 30 minutes, we're going to walk you through the PersonaLive segmentation within the Epiphany mapping platform and why it is so powerful, both for precision and speed in site selection and marketing strategies. What Carl and the team have developed with their Flex Quad technology is really impressive to me. And I think is just like, man, you want to tell a story on the map. This is really cool for that. So I'm aware that some of you are coming from knowing a lot about PersonaLive and you're new to GeoStrategies. And so we're going to walk through GeoStrategies and you're going to get to meet Carl. And then some of you are very familiar with GeoStrategies and have never heard about PersonaLive. So we're going to walk through both of our platforms. And in particular, we're going to walk through in between. My name is Lyden Faust. I'm the CEO of Spatial.ai, and I am joined here by Carl, who is the CEO of GeoStrategies. Welcome, Carl.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, let's get into this. So here's an agenda. Hey, I'm one of those people that I gain momentum when I see people asking questions. So don't be afraid to hit that Q&A button, and during this, and we might answer some during the webinar, and we might answer some after. It's supposed to be 30 minutes webinar, 15 minutes Q&A. Here's our agenda today. We're going to be talking through GeoStrategies. We'll walk through some background on Spatial. We're going to do a demo. Carl's going to walk you through a demo on the Epiphany mapping platform of using our segmentation to look at Lululemon retail locations in the Los Angeles area, I believe. And then I'll finish up with showing how you can go from site selection to targeting marketing, and then we'll do a Q&A. Okay, at a really high level, what's happening here? We've got a partnership now where the PersonaLive segmentation can be piped through the Epiphany mapping platform. So Epiphany is really good at mapping, visualization through Flex Quads and predictive modeling. What we do at PersonaLive is segmentation of your top customer segments in target marketing. Okay, so let's get into who is GeoStrategies. Carl, you want to take it?
Sure. High level, I started the company about 25, 30 years ago, initially just to support my mountain biking habit in Southern California, but that turned into a successful consultancy and then into a company. And what we do, Leiden, is we size and locate market opportunity. We are experts in sizing it and answering the big questions. Where is it? How much is it? And who is it? And we create what are called buying power indexes that I'm going to talk a little bit about. These are some of the brands that we have worked with. And once we've done an analytic for a brand, we then go in and create the maps in Epiphany. And I'm going to be showing some of that today. So appreciate the ability and opportunity to talk with you guys and the group today.
Cool. So a little bit of background on PersonaLive segmentation. When you think about segmentation and segmenting your customer data or segmenting trade areas or segmenting your mobile data, what options do you have? Well, one option that you have is segmenting your customer based on their demographics. You should always do this. In the 1970s, people started asking the question, what are the mindsets, interests, and attitudes behind our customers? And so they developed psychographics, which is primarily the study of people based on where they live. They're also called geodemographics. And so there's a few different segmentation systems. Mosaic, Claritas, both developed in the 1970s. And what they'll do is take clusters of demographically similar people in the US. It'll be through block groups and use k-means to cluster those. And usually come up with 70 to 80 different groups. And then apply survey data to those clusters. And it's in the US, it's MRI Survey of the American Consumer. And the surveys will say, what might these people do? This is where we felt like there was a huge opportunity with segmenting people is you don't necessarily need to use surveys to segment people. You can actually segment people based on what they actually do. What do I mean by what they actually do? PersonaLive segments people across 5 different dimensions. We categorize every single household at the household level into 80 different segments using social media. We're looking at what they follow. We're looking at where their mobile devices are going. We're looking at the individual record level. We use some census information like block group diversity index because it's still very valuable to get those neighborhood effects And finally, we use credit card data where we're looking at where those people transact and what they're spending on. And ultimately, what you get is a segmentation that is not only live in real time, it's also predictive and has different segments than you might expect from a typical demographic segmentation system. And I'm just going to do a quick demo of that for you guys so you get a feel for what this looks like. I know it might be new to some of you guys. Like I mentioned, every single household in the US falls into one of these 80 segments. And when you jump into a segment, one of the first things you'll notice about our segments is that they're live in real time because what you're talking about on social media, where your device goes and what your credit card spends on is real time. So you can get a good feel for the retailers that these people visit. So if I want to understand our Midas Might segment, we can see what they're talking about on social media right now. We can jump into in-store visitation and look at where their devices visit. So we can see the top of apparel they visit, and we can even get very regional with this and say, I only want to know what these people are visiting in Ohio, and we're going to get a ranking of retailers in Ohio. So we see they're 5 times more likely to visit Lululemon and athletic or Lululemon in Ohio than the national average or the Ohio average. We also have brand influence. It's what people are following on social media, channels, influencers, interests, etc. A lot of information real time about these people. But ultimately, what really matters is who are my segments. And our biggest promise with this platform is we can tell you in under 30 minutes who are your best segments and sometimes even faster. So we already have thousands of retailers categorized. So if I want to understand, for example, who are Lululemon's best segments, all I got to do is go to our Explore tool, type in Lululemon, and I can select that, and I immediately get a distribution of Lululemon's top segments. In this case, we're looking at by their credit card dollar spend, and I can break this down from our 17 groups to our 80 segments. In this case, I can see 7.16% of all the dollars that we see going to Lululemon come from this suburb chic segment. Those people make up 2.6% of the US population. Typically, this would take a long time. We just did that in seconds. If your brand's not big enough, all you have to do is upload and append your own customer data, and we should be able to segment that list in under 30 minutes. And it doesn't have to just be your brand. Like if Lululemon wanted to know about Aloe Yoga, they could look at Aloe Yoga's top segments as well. So what we're trying to do is get you those segments really quickly. But ultimately, those segments are useless unless you are mapping them and understand where those segments are. And that is where the Epiphany mapping platform comes in. I'm really excited for you guys to see these Flex Quads. Carl, would you take them through that?
I will. Tell me when we are good online and set something up here. Are we good?
Very good.
Okay. Well, you know, having the opportunity to highlight this data set is a thrill for me. We've been doing this, as I said, 25 to 30 years. And this is one of the best data sets that we've ever brought in. We've been using this data now for about 4 months. We're integrating it into our models. And what I'm going to do is show you just kind of two ways that we use the spatial data. The first thing we do is we create for our brands that we work with what's called a market opportunity index. And all an index is it's something that you can push into different geographies to understand the relative size of the market. So
Hey,
here's an
Carl, are
example.
you intending
Yes,
to show your screen here? Because we're not quite seeing your screen yet.
I shared my screen. Let me try it one more time. I'm sorry. Hold on. Share. Let's do this right here. Um,
It
are
is coming.
you seeing my screen now?
It'll come.
Are we good?
It's
We
just
good?
going up to the satellite and coming back down. We see it. There we go. We're good.
Okay, okay. So in this case, Light, and what we've done and what we do for brands, here's a consumer brand. We have segmented using PersonaLive, and you see a number of percentages in each of these states, and this is a very valuable number that's in each state. So you see 13% in California. What this means is we believe for this particular brand, based on the segmentation of PersonaLive, based on the weight that we've applied to the different segments, 13% means we believe 13% of all the dollars being spent for this particular brand's category is taking place in California, almost 3% in Arizona, and so forth. So what an index does is it allows you to sum the market by geography. They all sum to 100, and now you have some guidance. So for example, we already know a lot about the market strategically. if 13% of the market opportunity, market buying power is in California, and I'm doing my job covering the US, and I should sort of expect 13% of my revenue to come from California. Also, if 13% of the opportunity is there, then sort of 13% of my lead generation should be happening there, and sort of 3% in Arizona. So an index strategically becomes a hugely valuable thing for a brand to use to grow, to know where the opportunity is, maybe to go acquire somebody. There's all different kinds of ways of using it. And that index can be pushed down into micro markets as well, not just the states. But for example, here you can see I have 4.1% of all market buying power for this particular brand is in Los Angeles. 1.3 is in San Diego. And you can continue to take an index from the PersonaLive data for a consumer brand, and you can push it down into counties. You can push it down into markets. You can push it down into neighborhoods. And then ultimately what you can do with this is push an addressable number. And I'm not going to go into this right now, but there's ways of using this strategically that are very, very valuable for a company. What I'm going to be spending a little bit more time on today is talking about location rollout. We found the PersonaLive data to be insanely competitive. We have great confidence when we use this data, more so than really what we have had in the past. And I'm going to walk through and just show you how we would use the PersonaLive data in a market rollout. So imagine a brand comes to us, they have 20 existing, 30 existing locations, and they want us to write a go-to-market model for them. Or let's say it's a competitor. Let's say you compete with Lululemon, and you want to know something about their market rollout. What we would do in an initial phase is we would look at what's driving success for those locations, whether it's for the brand we're working for or whether it's a competitive market rollout. The process is the same. We're gonna look at what's in and around the market where those locations are, and then a typical map environment. We use three shapes to create an environment. The first thing we're going to use is circles to scan the market. So imagine Lululemon has a pro forma expectation of $2 million per location or something like that. What we will do is determine what's required based on density of target PersonaLive segments to generate $2 million. And we'll scan the market with circles looking for critical mass, looking for $2 million. We use area shapes like counties or metro areas to determine how many locations we found. And then we use 1 mile quadrants to do heat mapping. We call these Flex Quads, and I'll show you that in just a second. But basically the process works like this. Let's say we're looking for $2 million in pro forma, and we know it requires a certain volume of PersonaLive segments in order to generate that. We scan the market with a very tiny radius, in this case, a half mile, and just picture an algorithm that's like a big metal detector that goes back and forth across the market. It's looking for where the data pings. And in this case, we find 6 locations in Los Angeles that hit the pro forma we're looking. We then start all over again. We increment that radius scan up again, and the algorithm now makes it a little bit bigger. Maybe it's a mile. And you can see now I have 2 size radiuses kind of cohabiting together here in Newport. You've got a smaller radius and then a bigger one because we need a little more elbow room to generate $2 million there. And so what a rollout using PersonaLive data looks like is something like this. We can create a rollout using their data to determine density of target prospects. And now you sort of know how many prospects or how many locations can I support in the north, south, east, west around me. And that's kind of how that ends up looking. The second thing we do to get much more refined is we do what we call Flex Quad modeling. So we're zoomed in here to South Orange County. And so imagine we're taking the Lululemon segmentation, and we know in every city block now how many target persona segments there are that are likely or ongoing customers of Lululemon or the brand we're working for. What we do is we'll drop a square mile down. We love square miles because we know what a mile is. It's something we can mentally picture. And what we're going to do is basically do this, saying, well, what if we open a new location here? What's around that quadrant? And we can do drive minutes. In this case, I'm going to make it real simple for the demonstration right here. I'm just going to use 3 miles. We can query around that quad, and we know that there's about 10,000 target PersonaLive segments within 3 miles. No, not in, but around it. So the algorithm then goes 1 mile to the east, and it does it all over again, where we're going to scan the same for the same thing. And so if you can visually see what's happening here, I'm picking up a little bit of the market to the east. I'm dropping a little of the market to the west. And then I'm double counting this, but that's what I want to do. I want to see how these overlap as you go. And so now you can see I've got 2 measurements, 2 quads, just 1 metric total PersonaLive segments. And what we do in our modeling is we cover the market with 3.4 million quads, and we can start populating it with that data. So what this does is it smooths the data. If I was showing you just the number inside of the quad, it would be really messy. You'd see these spikes up and down. But what this does is smooths the data, and you can see, Huntington Beach. If this was real data, this is where it peaks. Santa Ana over there, it drops off a cliff. And so this is one of the things we're using the PersonaLive data to model. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into some live maps here, and I'll walk you through the Lululemon back engineer that we did. So just again, looking at South Orange County here, you can see I'm going to start the model. I've got the Lululemons in the location. If I zoom out, you can see I've got the whole market. And Leiden, we're going to do the whole market. We got everything here, but I'm just going to zoom into South Orange County. What I can do now is start to populate a model with target co-tenants. Sorry here. Hold on. So I can populate this now with target co-tenants and competitors. And so now you can see I've got a model where I'm starting to build it. I've got Lululemons. I've got the targets, but I can't really make a decision yet. Imagine you were trying to make a decision where the next Lululemon store goes. Not enough data yet. So what we're going to do, I'm going to show you an amazing view that we were able to create using the PersonaLive data. We were able to look at the target segments of Lululemon and simulate trade areas and customers. So each of these pins represents an existing customer. And look how beautiful and detailed this map is. We were able to model where we think those customers are coming from. And the color of the pins are based on the store that we believe they're going to. So you can see massive amounts of modeling. This wouldn't have been possible without the PersonaLive data, without the Spatial.ai platform. But we're able to create this beautiful piece of intelligence. So the next thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to overlay quadrants. So now we have those 1 mile quads, and I can start to populate more of the Spatial.ai data. So here you go. So what we've done now is we can see mile by mile, and this is the same thing as I showed you on that slide. Within 3 miles of Fashion Island right here, there are 42,000 target PersonaLive Lululemon households. You see if I move 1 mile to the east, it drops to 36, and it keeps dropping this way. But with that data, I can see where the highest densities of those are, and I can get an idea of where and what's going on. We looked at this yesterday in Leiden. I think I even showed you this. In LA, the highest density of Lululemon customers, no surprise if you're in Angelino, is on the west side here. You got 144,000 target PersonaLive segments within 3 miles. But look what happens here when you count just 11 miles to the east. It drops off a cliff, and there's absolutely nobody here, and you wouldn't expect a Lululemon store to be here. So now we're going to go into some machine learning, and we're going to show you how we can absolutely go in and crush the model here. We're going to go in and we're going to measure every one of these 471 Lululemon locations. We're going to look at the market locations in and around those Lululemons. We're going to look at the target segments, the density close and then far away. We're going to look at optimal adjacencies. If we had revenue, we would throw that in as well. But what we're going to do here now is we're going to use this AI machine learning score to score every quad from 0 to 100 for Lululemon. And so 100 is as good as it gets. Let's see how we. So here we've got up in what is this, Beverly Hills. Here's a quad that scored a 97 out of 100. It's a machine learning score that tells you, based on the portfolio rollout, this is a great place for Lululemon to be. And no surprise, they've got 5 locations. These two right here are within a half-mile of each other. But again, the data kind of supports that here where you see a 95 and a 97, and they're real close to each other. Um, so I zoom out here and you see, for the most part, those stores are where the quads are. But now I'm going to show you one more thing. We're going to add a confidence score. All you need to know here is we've gone through every square mile and said, hey, if we put a Lululemon here, what is our confidence that this is a quad that looks like a Lululemon quad? A 1 means 100% confidence. A 0.3 means 30%. And here you can see it drops to nothing. But what I'm going to do here is show you the power of Flex Quads. I'm going to do what we call cookbooking. I'm going to filter the quads where the machine learning score is 85 or higher and where a confidence score is 100. And so for the most part, you can see these green quads have representation. But what we discovered here is something we don't even think Lululemon knows. Here you have this absolute prime area. You have quads in the machine learning score that say you should have a store here, and it's not. And so if we had done this for you, if this is like a competitive rollout, maybe you could go in and poach, before Lululemon gets you could go in and poach this. Here's a Long Beach quad that looks really good. So this is how you could actually go in and find where the machine learning says you should be putting locations. One final thing I'm going to show you here. I'm going to buffer all of the Lululemon stores with a protective buffer. And if this was a franchise, franchise locations, you get a protected area, protected territory. So I'm going to show you how we would take this and the example I show where we scan around the outside. So here's now the final model I'm going to share with you, which is we're scanning the outside outside of where Lululemons are, outside of those buffers. Like if you look at here in Irvine, you can see I've got a couple of buffers here, but the model now is scanning outside saying, hey, we think you could put one here. What this model shows, Leiden, is Lululemon has 471 locations. But what this model reveals is there's really another 391 locations that we believe they could open. So that is what I had to share with you today. Leiden, anything you want me to add to this or any questions that you would like me to answer?
We got some good questions in the chat. I do have a question for you. So, you know, obviously the segmentation is out of the box, but you got some advanced analytics and modeling here. If someone were to work with you, how do they get this level of precision?
So what typically happens in this machine learning model that I showed you where we have scores, we typically need the portfolio locations, the revenue at those locations, and then a set of customers. What we prefer to do is take an actual customer base. We would upload it into your platform, the Spatial.ai platform, and then return the customers. We would build trade areas based on that data. So what I was showing you here, where we're able to simulate these customers, what we would do is use actual customers and actual segments from a brand. And it's pretty much that simple. It's a few more questions, which is who are your competitive brands and which are the optimal adjacencies, the co-tenants that you want to be near. That's as simple as it is. That's pretty much all that we need.
Right on. I got one from Bart here. It might be a little bit more involved, so you just tell me if we need to leave this to the end. Um, if there's a store near a quad, but not on it, is there a way to tell how many of those people are already going to the store? In other words, to prevent new stores from competing with current stores?
Yeah. So what we are doing is typically what you're going to create is what's called a 70% trade area. And so when a location is in or near a quad, what we're ultimately doing to create the circles that we scan for, and then looking where the new quads would be. we're using again an actual trade area that is independent from that quad set. The quad set, if you look at this, it's just a really nice way visually of just breaking the market down. But we're actually going to be using trade areas when we take into account what each of these is doing and where the new ones should be going.
Right on. Cool. Thank you, Carl. Yeah, if you guys have more questions, I see a few and we'll hit those in the end, but make sure you put them in the chat or in the Q&A. All right, I'm going to steal your screen back from you.
Yep.
So now we got a good sense of like, yeah, how do we use this on a map? One of the gaps that I think all of us have felt in real estate is we do all this research and site selection, and that doesn't usually get translated over to the marketing team. Or the marketing team asks us, "Hey, can I use some of this, demographics or audiences?" And the answer from us is usually, no, like I can't send you over maids. So with PersonaLive, we're changing that. We're making this as fast as possible to go from, hey, I have a fully ranked segmentation. I know my segments around the area, and I can run media to those exact segments that are my top segments. And I'm going to show you that here. So once you have your site on the ground, if you actually want to run media at the top segments, and I'm just going to do this for Lululemon here. I'm going to type in Lululemon. We know the segments from what Carl just showed us that are around that trade area. We can also get down to the DMA here. So we might want to say, I want to know Lululemon's best customers in Los Angeles. So we get our distribution of sales in Los Angeles. All we have to do now, if we want to activate media, is hit activate, and it's going to select the top 10 of our segments. We can choose more, we can choose less, whatever we want, and then confirm and send that. It will push it into a media campaign. What's nice about all of these records, they're natively attached to Meta and different programmatic platforms. So if we want to run an advertising campaign at AO3, BO1, BO2, which are the top segments in LA, all we need to do is send that to our Meta ads account, and then we can run media at those exact segments. We can do that CTV, programmatic, Pinterest, Snapchat, etc. If you're doing Google ads, I like to use zip codes for that. I'm just going to show you this with direct mail because we can even show you direct mail lists for those areas. So here we got our top segments. Right now we're looking at that nationally, but we can hit a zip code or radii and we can paste in. I just happened to grab off of Google an LA store. And so we can see within a 10-mile radius, we have 330,000 total targetable households that are in our top 10 segments. Just like that. Takes 5 minutes, you're running media at those top segments. So it makes it really easy to do that. So ultimately here, step one is you're ranking your best segments. Step two, you're inputting it into Envision and you're using those flex quads. We got some questions on those we're going to answer. But what I love about them is just it makes it so easy for your eyes to be able to see
Yeah.
where to go. Hard to look at CBG maps, even if you're experienced, really hard to tell a story with those. And then finally, once you have your sites there, you can activate the key segments against that. So we're going to go through Q&A. If you're interested in what we have shared today and you want to get a personalized demo from Carl and the team at GeoStrategies, we have a special page for this webinar. It's Spatial.ai/Epiphany. Put your email in there and then they will give you a personalized demo, just like the one that we saw today. Carl, you ready to go into some questions here?
Yeah, I'm seeing them. Do you want to tee them up?
Yep. Yeah. So I've got one from Chad, which is really good. What is the smallest scale geography that you can analyze via Flex Quads? So for urban areas, can you provide insights down to like a quarter mile, et cetera?
That's a great question. What we typically do in a typical rollout is we look at all locations in four categories: super urban, urban, suburban, and then the county seat. So if you can imagine downtown Manhattan, you're walking 6 blocks to a location. If you're in the county seat in the middle of Illinois, everybody from 25 miles away goes to the county seat. So we take that attitude when we look at quads as well. And the quads can drop from a mile down to when we get into super urban area, we're going to be at a tenth of a mile, a third of a mile. So as we go in, we do those measurements more tightly. So yes, we do drop that down and take into account urbanicity when we do the quads.
I was going to ask a similar question on how do you kind of determine the size of that flex quad? Because yeah, you're in Nevada and in a large area, you could use a larger circle. Um, I think I got one for me here. So Ryan asked for orthodontic practices. Um, what's with the spatial platform to identify the best target segments? So if you're an orthodontic practice, and the chances of you being in our credit card or mobile data stuff, it's very low. Like you're not going to immediately find yourself. If you have the emails of your customers, if you have the addresses of your customers, I didn't show you this, but you can in the append tool, all you have to do is upload your customer data. It goes in, it's hashed, and it's matched, and we'll give you your distribution of segments just like I showed you in our sort of like default out of the box. A lot of small brands will do that. Takes like 30 minutes to upload, match every one of those segments. So yeah, even if you're small, independent practice, you can do that. We have a number of dental practices that will use this. Usually, it's kind of a group of chains that use it in that way.
Yeah, Leiden,
Okay.
can I jump in on that too? Is we've done a lot of work in the oral healthcare space, and yeah, number one is if they're your patients, and that you have to be HIPAA compliant, which we have been. We've done a lot of this, just the name list of the patients, segmenting that is obviously pretty straightforward. If it's a freestanding building, we do geofence those, and you can get a pretty good idea of who those segments are. So we've used both of those as our primary method for segmenting, like an orthodontic practice.
We have a question. What are the pins indicating? Those pins that you had around the stores, what were those, Carl?
Yeah, those were again, it's something that our data team created using the Spatial.ai platform. Those were simulated customers. Those little pins were where we believe the actual customers were coming from. The color of them, it was color coded to match which Lululemon store we believe they're going to. But Leiden, we used your guys' segmentation. We did the modeling to look at likely travel, likely distance, and the density of them. And so the individual pins were simulating a likely customer base and where they are coming from to shop at Lululemon.
And if I'm right, like you simulated it using our data, which is cool. But you could take it the real data too and put pins, right?
Yeah. So we have a couple of models that I didn't share. We didn't have time, but we do cannibalization and encroachment. So the idea is you have actual pins, and now you can have a model that looks at drive times. I didn't show drive times either because we were just lacking time. But what you can do is to say, when I look at a 10-minute drive time, how do those overlap? And pins there become actual customers. So the simulated one is I don't have customers. I want to simulate Lululemon's where their customers are, but in a perfect world for a brand, we would have their actual customers and saying, here's exactly where they're coming.
Cool. Lee asked, those quads. Is a quad a group of four contiguous squares with a score like a high score, or is the quad just that one box?
Quad is a standalone, and like when I zoomed into like Beverly Hills, where you could see multiple scores, the score is basically going to the middle of a quad and doing the same measurement. In some cases, we'll do drive minutes around the center of a quad. In those, it was just 3 mile radius around the quad. So each of those quads stands alone. It's a single quad with a single score in each quad based on the machine learning.
Right on. I got one from Lonnie, and get your questions in if you have a few more because we're kind of knocking them out here. Lonnie asked, what do I mean by an individual record in this case? So if you guys remember, it's one of the attributes that we use to create a segment. And the individual record in this case is literally a first name, last name, and address. So I've got two neighbors that are very far from me right now, but 3 miles down the road, there's a lady. She's about 85 years old. in about 3 miles. It's actually a mile and a half that way. I got an Amish person that lives. I would live way up on a farm. But most segmentation systems would have everybody as the same segment in a census blocker. We know that's not right. So I have different demographics, attributes individually from those people. And so those people are actually going to show up as a different segment, even though we're neighbors, even though we're on the same block group. So that's what I mean by an individual record.
Well, and light in the term record, it's just a row in a spreadsheet. So if you can
Yep.
think about all it means, it's a term that just means name, address, city, state, zip. It's one row in a spreadsheet. The next row is another record. So row, record, they're interchangeable terms for data.
Yep. I've got another question. Doesn't Spatial already have maps of these segments already? Yeah, we do have maps. So you can map these as census block groups in our platform. But as you saw what Carl did, like our map is very light. There's no analytics, there's no tooling around it. It's just visualizing those segments. And the great thing about Epiphany platform is this Flex Quads, which I've kind of feel like I've been on a tirade against since block groups this year, which they're not bad, but just not the optimal way of telling a story. And Carl, you're packing so much dense information into those quads that I just think it really helps with site selection. Okay. I got one more question here. In the quad shading, is there a second variable like shading income, but numerically showing population?
Yeah, we can. I mean, there's several ways of doing this, and I don't want to get too technical here. But the beauty with quads like this is you can shade and value and filter. Where imagine like for density of target personas within 3 miles, more and more and more and more gets better and better and better and better. But then you take something like crime. You don't want more and more and more and more. You want less and less and less and
Yeah.
less. So the beauty of filtering and doing quads, taking multivariate things, you can filter and shade and label. So you can be labeling for one thing and shading for another. You can be filtering where potential is above X and crime rate is below Y. So now you're cookbooking and showing just quads where multiple metrics are hitting what you're looking for. But yeah, you can label and shade with different things and do kind of anything you want really.
Right on, guys. Well, if you have more questions, feel free to jump into that link, spatial.ai and slash epiphany, and you can talk to Carl and the team. Thank you for sticking on. I've loved doing this. Carl, thank you for jumping on and I'm excited to partner with you.
My pleasure.
Right on. See you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.